And good evening, y'all, and welcome to another Thursday night. Hopefully, everyone's week is going good. If not, Todd is going to turn it around. He's going to make it better for everyone.
Wow. No pressure there, huh, man?
No, not at all.
No pressure. No pressure whatsoever.
This is going to be good.
Tonight is going to be quite the discussion, I think. Quite the discussion. I think we're covering a topic that I think can be divisive. So we'll see at the end of the night what does it do to the three of us.
Yeah. But I'll tell you what, y'all. I do have at least one fan. How about that for a joke of the night?
That was good right there. That was good.
You missed it, Mariah.
Oh no, I caught it.
We did? I said, he said I
caught
got
it.
one fan. Okay, all right.
No, we both saw that one. We both saw that one. We're that's you're gonna have to work a little harder than that tonight, Vibes.
Why am I even here? I didn't realize it's gonna be this hard.
You're the boss. Without you, we got nothing.
Oh
That's right.
no, y'all could take over and run it better than I could.
I don't know about that.
Oh no,
I
no
don't
way.
know about that. Mm-mm.
Oh
So,
no, I got one sauce on my cardigan.
Oh,
Oh man.
Look at that. We're just gonna cover that up.
Okay.
now the whole night everyone's gonna be observing that spot. Hopefully that they can see it. So, how is y'all's week thus far?
Good. Lots of stuff going on as usual, but it was a good week, and just happy to be here with you guys tonight. How about you guys?
Yeah, same here. Mine's been pretty good, pretty productive so far. I'm working on my Halloween decorations for my costume party. So it's been fun.
Ooh. I
Nice.
tell you what, y'all. This morning I was listening in my car on the way to the tax office. I was listening to Christmas music already.
By choice?
Yeah, by choice.
Huh. You're one of those
See-
folks, huh?
Exactly. No,
So,
the last couple of days it's been kind of cold and dreary.
Okay.
So
So
I've been-
you're talking about it's been what about 82 and a little drizzle of rain?
no, at night it's been down to 50 at night.
Oh,
Yeah,
that is
it's cold.
that is cold for where you are.
Yeah. And during the day, about 72, 73 during the day. So that's cold for us.
Yeah.
So yeah, I even see I got a throw on.
Nice.
I'm actually debating about putting the fireplace out and plugging it in.
it's been really cold here lately.
So I'm not the only one. No.
Yeah, but cold for us is a little bit different than your cold.
Right. No. I do have a little bit of bad news. My pond outside got a leak.
It's got a leak.
Oh no.
Oh man.
I found it tonight. It's on the spillway. It's the overflow. It's at the bottom where the hose comes in. Right there at the bottom of the inlet or the hose. It's cracked.
Is it so it's one of the pre-made, the molded ones, or the pond? Yeah. So it's got a crack in the mold.
Right.
Oh,
So
jeez.
I'm trying to figure out what's the best way to fix that.
Can you epoxy something like that?
I thought about it, but where the bulkhead goes, bulkhead goes through. It's right there. Yeah. So it needs to be, whatever I do needs to be flush. That way the bulkhead still sits tight. You know.
Oh yeah.
Otherwise, it's gonna leak it again. You know.
It'll leak anyways. Yeah.
You could use silicone.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
but for how long though? Until that does it again.
Hmm.
Uh,
True.
this evening, I put a band-aid on it this evening. Uh, that it's a pond liner tape. I put it on the
Mm.
inside uh, and on the outside, so it drips now, and
Mm-hmm.
it's not spraying out of the side now. Okay, so
Okay.
What's the name of that stuff? I don't know if it's fish safe or not, but Flex Seal, that the Flex tape,
Yeah.
oh
Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
it's the
that
same
might.
idea as what I used. Oh,
Oh no, we lost her. Oh no, there she is.
there she is. Maybe not.
Mm,
There she is.
Yep.
gotcha. Yeah, I might lose you guys for just a second. Sorry, I had to turn on my Wi-Fi.
Okay.
Oh no, you're good.
I
You're
didn't
good.
realize it was off.
No, you're good. No, I might. What I might do is put a piece of plastic, maybe even pond liner, and caulk it. So there's a
Mhm.
pond liner caulk. That way, I don't know, because I really
mean
don't
that
want to. Go ahead.
you would think that would probably work.
Yeah, because I really don't want to replace it right now.
Mm-hmm.
The that thing is expensive.
Well, and just it's not a simple process.
No, it's
Right.
buried. So if you get to where the post comes in, I had to dig
Mhm.
it out.
Yeah.
So, uh-oh. So yeah,
Oh.
that's gonna be a full day job for me probably Saturday. I'm gonna see if I can fix
Mm-hmm.
it.
To dig it back out and figure out what you're gonna do with it.
Dig
Yeah.
it back out. I see the pond liner's fastened to the bolted. It's bolted and caulked, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
together. So I don't want to tear that apart because that'd be a nightmare to redo it.
Yes.
Yeah. So I don't
Yes.
know.
Yes.
Hope for the best, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, at least at this point, you've got it where it's not gushing water, so that gives you
Right.
time to sort of figure out what you're gonna do with it. But obviously too terribly long. Now you don't tear it down for the winter.
No.
No.
Um. The worst thing I was worried about this evening. I mean, the leak. Yeah, whatever. But I did not want the lava rocks or the media in the
Mhm.
stuff to dry out
Yep. Yep.
because the bacteria would die, and I don't
Mhm.
want that because that's the main source of the bio load, biological load for the whole system.
Comes out of that spillway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, there of course there's going to be beneficial bacteria in the pond, but
Mm-hmm.
the main load is in the
Sure.
spillway.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm going ahead and welcome everyone to the live
Perfect.
stream.
And we'll see when Mariah jumps back on here, and then we can get into our topic. There she comes.
Are you back? You back? You back?
I'm back.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Excellent.
Welcome back. We missed you. We got way Sam, the best
Sam.
mod this side.
Damn.
Hey, Lando, welcome.
Hey, Lando.
What's
Hey,
up?
Sharkfin.
Shark Fin.
Hey, Pasonics, welcome.
Diego.
Scuba Steve.
Steve.
Scuba Steve. I like that name.
Fish Fam Link,
Hey, Linky.
welcome. How y'all this evening? Hey, Tommy, Silver Creek. What up, peeps?
What's happening, Tommy?
That profile picture though is nice.
Annette.
Hey, Nat.
That's not a net. It's a net.
Annette. Yeah. You with
Welcome.
the jokes tonight.
Ah. Hey, is that a bad thing?
No.
I mean, we can change it and just omit the jokes altogether.
Just be a super serious stream. No,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think our fans would like that.
Mm-mm.
I only got one fan.
Oh my God.
Well, that's twice tonight. So
They say that third time's a charm.
yeah.
Okay, none of that stuff. we're gonna bear the fans out of their wits and they're gonna leave.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, and I do want to comment tonight. I'm representing Aquarium Domain, my buddy Jeremy from
Can we see it?
the Clash.
Woo!
So if you haven't checked out his channel, you definitely should. He's doing some really interesting stuff, building his own aquariums, and um, to the tune of like 4,500 gallons is one he's working on now. So
Yeah,
Oh,
right.
wow.
it is crazy the stuff that he's doing. So
Uh,
yeah, I'd recommend checking it out.
And what would that be for? Would that be for like a
He
betas?
is
Guppies?
for bettas, yeah, for guppy,
Yeah.
yeah. That he's gonna turn it into like a little guppy lagoon. That's exactly what he's doing.
Well,
No, I think he's.
Wouldn't it be awesome?
There is definitely a part of me that says that would actually be pretty neat, like a whole bunch of chili rasboras or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think what he's doing that is going to be where he moves some of his big cichlids and his peacock bass and things like that. So it's pretty neat just to watch the process, though.
Right. Now tonight I'm rocking out Seashay shirt.
Nice.
Follow the whale, y'all. I do
Looks like we've
have.
had a. I was just gonna say, looks like we have a few more folks come in. We got June's come in. We got Riva, CoralWorks. We got Banaski, and the one and only Paul Soltero.
Hey, Polly. I like that. Anyways, back at it. Tonight's topic: filtration choices. Does that mean we have a choice in this whole thing?
Oh, there's
And
definitely lots
filtration?
of choice. Lots of choice, but this is where the
Oh.
conversation takes a turn because we all have our favorites and we are prepared to defend them.
There's only one choice for filtration: mine.
Mm-hmm.
She's starting off strong. I like it. So go ahead, TJ.
Yeah. So if I think about filtration choices, for me, it really comes down to one type of filter. And I use actually a couple, but my favorite is hang-on backs. I have
What is
hang-on
that?
backs. What is a hang-on back?
Yeah.
Hang-on back filter is one that, as the name would imply, it's able to hang on the tank. And it is just my favorite. And I think the best filter for the way I keep fish. I also do have sponge filters in some tanks, but still, I would give the nod to the hang on back. When I think about why, it's pretty easy, right? The ease of maintenance is a big one for me. It's easy for me to put a little bit of tank water when I'm doing a water change, put it in a bucket, grab the media out of the hang-on back, the sponge and whatever else I've got in there, put it in that bucket with the water and kind of swish it around, and it just makes it simple. It's back in the filter, the media within minutes. So super easy. And I think the other part that goes around with that is the fact that you can customize it. So each of
Mm.
my hang-on backs has a different setup. I have different types of sponge and other types of media in every one of my hang-on backs, and they all function similarly. If I want to have it just be something that I use for biological filtration, I could fill it with something like, small pieces of lava rock or some of the bio rings or all of those kinds of things. You could do all sorts of things with them, and I just think it's wonderful. The compact size, so I'm not lugging large pieces of equipment around. Even if I want to, which once a year I usually take it completely off the tank and do a little bit more of a clean out of the actual kind of the box that I'll call it.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And it's simple, right? It doesn't take much longer than it does to clean just the media on an every couple of weeks basis for me to do like that annual kind of more of a clean. And I think the other thing that really kind of stands out to me is it's good at mechanical filtration, where the sponge filters that I have, they do it, but it's not the same, right? I don't get that water to be that super crystal clear like I do, depending again on what kind of sponge that I'm going to use that I can in a hang on back.
Right.
I just think the versatility is there, and I think the other thing is that it creates a lot of flow,
Mm-hmm.
and you can do it in a way where you can move it to a different part of the tank if you want to have a tank that's more of like a stream, like a hill
Mm-hmm.
stream low tank or something like that. You can put it on the end of the tank, and it'll create more of a flow like a stream would have, right? And it goes the length of the
Mm-hmm.
tank, or just all sorts of different choices that I think make it ideal.
Yeah. So, what brand would you recommend?
Yeah, so I currently have two brands that I use, and I like them both for different reasons. One I have is the Title. So I've got a Title 55 on my shell dweller tank. And then
Mm-hmm.
on two of the other tanks, I have Marine Lands of a kind of a similar size. I don't remember exactly what the number is, but I don't know if it's a 40 or a 50 or whatever it is.
Right.
I like them both. They both function differently. The Title flows from the bottom up, and the Marine Land flows from the back to the front. And that took me a little while to really think about how they function and how to set up the media, because they both have to be set up slightly differently in order to really maximize how the water flows through the filter. If I
Mm-hmm.
had to pick between them, I would say probably the Title. I like the fact that it's self-starting, so I don't have to prime it. Once I do a water change, I just plug it back in. It starts right back up. It does have the ability to change the flow, right? So I can increase the flow or decrease the flow with the
Mm-hmm.
little wheel. I just think some of those little extra features just make it just that little bit nicer than the Marine Land. But I
Mm-hmm.
don't have any real complaints about the Marine Lands.
Okay. I'm quick looking for some more people that show up. Hey, Garcia Aquatics here. Hey,
Berto.
what? Hey, Craig, welcome.
Hey, Craig. We also got M and C.
MNC, welcome. Okay. Uh, so do you use the media that it comes with?
So I use the media that came with my Title,
Yeah.
except I added a second one of their blue, kind of a medium type of sponge. So it's not
Mm-hmm.
super fine. So I've got two pieces of the sponge, and then on top of that, I've got the little bag of the Seachem Matrix.
Mm-hmm.
For the Marine Lands, I did not. Marine Lands are the ones that have the cartridges. I tossed that out of the way, and I created my own media. So in one, I've got just straight sponge. And in the other one, I've got sponge, and I added a small bag of some sort of a bio ball type of media.
Mm-hmm.
So again, the versatility to me is amazing. I just think it's great.
Nice. Hey, Bewizzle, welcome.
Hey, Brandon.
Hey, Christian, welcome. And how about you,
Yeah, it's
Mariah?
interesting. I was gonna say it's interesting that you mentioned the hang on back because I actually in the tank behind me, I actually have two of them running on this tank.
Hmm.
Um, the original reason why I went with hang on back was because that was all that was available to me at the time with my budget. Uh, y'all already know how expensive some of the equipment can be in the fish keeping world. So um, yeah, that was basically what I could afford at the time. But now I've gotten to the point where it works really well for this tank, um, especially because of the fact that I have the addition of wave makers in the tank. So it allows the filtration to really do its job, and it doesn't have to overwork itself in order to pull everything into the intake. Um, but the second HOB that I put on here was actually about to be thrown away at my job. A customer had returned it and said that the filter didn't work right and they couldn't use it. And I asked them if I could take it home and look at it, and they let me. And so, of course, I took it apart, and there was nothing wrong with it. It just needed a little tweaking here and there. Needed to pop the impeller back up into its little
Right.
housing, and it was perfectly fine. Once you popped it back up in the little housing, it worked like a charm.
Oh
So I
yeah.
have the second one now on this side, and the primary one, the higher rated one, is on this side. Um, so I got one of them for half off and one for free.
Nice.
Woo!
Can't beat that.
Nice. No.
As far as the media goes, that's inside. I did use the carbon filters that came with both of them,
Mhm.
but I also used the addition of another foam pad as well as polyfill in the outlet area in order to help polish the water. And I change out the polyfill probably like twice a week. And then I'll clean off the filter cartridges once a week, probably for 3 to 4 days before a water change. That way
Mhm.
I'm not doing too much removal of bacteria throughout the
Mhm.
process.
Yeah.
And like you said earlier, it is very easy, very straightforward to clean. It doesn't take long at all.
Yep.
Um, and also with the fact that it's not a very large surface area. If you do happen to over clean an HOB, it doesn't remove too much to where you have that potential bloom or even crash like we talked about last week.
Right.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
that's a really beneficial part of it.
Mhm.
And I just think that the ease of the time of maintenance for me, even though it's
Mhm.
more frequent than you might have to do to a canister, again,
Yeah,
it just
yeah.
works easy for me. And I'll say again, I think I put this qualifier out there last week, and I think every time we talk about these things, it's what works for us. And
Mhm.
so I
Right.
think everybody's option is valid. I know we joke to say, these are tough topics, and we're ready to kind of battle it out. But at the end of the day, we're all right because
Right.
it's working for us and our fish.
Mhm.
But it's just trying to figure out what are the things that you end up finding ease to do and makes your life as a fish keeper easier, and that's what you do.
Right.
So
Right. Hey,
Yeah,
hey,
I definitely
welcome.
agree. The cleaning and the maintenance is definitely more frequent. Um, but I think that's a good thing in a manner that it kind of forces you to interact with your tank and the ecosystem more often.
mhm.
Um, I know a lot of us sometimes can get lazy or complacent or what have you, or even just busy in our everyday lives. And sometimes there are people that tend to forget about the fish at the end of the day. Um, and it kind of forces you to take a look at your tank more often as well because HOB, you got to clean it a lot more often. If you're not cleaning it, that water is going to get real dirty real fast, and you're definitely going to be able to see that. Um, so it kind of forces you to interact with the tank more and just be more on top of your maintenance in a way.
Yeah, I think there's something to that, right? That you have to have
Right.
that regular interaction point. I think it's also good practice just to be paying attention to the tank. That's how you're going to catch issues and things like that. So it's sort of
Hmm.
it all sort of flows together. I think Tommy's got a good point here. I think the idea of using a pre-filter, and that I think extends even beyond just a hang-on back. You can use that
Hmm.
with a canister, right? Or probably
Right.
some
Hmm.
other types of filters that I think that those are. I think those are really a good idea. I do use them specifically in tanks where if I've got a hang on back and it's a tank for breeding, I automatically go to a pre-filter just to try and keep the fry out of the filter. And
Hmm.
so I think those are very valuable. I think that they have a lot of uses. So I agree with him.
Hey, Skinner!
Hey,
I
Nona.
just saw something pretty cool. It's a very, very cheap and very uh, innovative way to do it. Instead of actually going and buying pre-filters over and over and over again, they just disassembled. They took apart an actual fish net and just used the net on there with some rubber bands.
Yeah,
Sure.
You know,
that'll
Yeah.
work.
and that way,
Bill!
you can easily take that off, clean it, and reuse it and put it back on there, no problem.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
As opposed to the pre-filters, which can really kind of tend to break down over extended period of time.
Yeah, depending on the material you use, right?
Hmm.
Some of them are more durable than others, but
Yeah.
yeah.
No, Tommy. Hey, keep it family friendly. Uh, moving on. Now, of course, my favorite filter is the canister. Of course, the main reason I want the turnover rate that it gives me from my big tanks. I got a lot of cichlids. And cichlids are a messy bioload for your system. Now, could I go with the hang up back? Yeah, I could do it with the hang up back. It'd be
Mhm.
okay. But I don't want to be cleaning it every couple months. I want to go at least 6 to 9 to even a year before touching it. Um, Now, I do it. Most of my tanks, I do have a hang on back on it on the tank for polyfill purposes only, for polishing it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like a pre-filter, I guess, sort of.
It's the polisher for sure, right?
Hmm.
It just does that extra little bit.
And
So
I
that
love
was
the
actually part
titles.
of the plan too.
Hmm.
Hmm. The title has a built-in skimmer, which is awesome for that. It adds an extra polishing effect to it.
Hmm.
Now, of course, the casters I use are the FX series.
Hmm.
I've tried many different brands, different sizes. I've tried different fluvels out there. Um, Suns, Marineland, Eheim, you name it. And then I tried out the FX series. After that, I'm not going back to anything else. I even tried out the Oasi. The FX series has done so well for me that hey, my water's clean. Does a good job. Now I don't use everything that comes in the package, the box when you buy it brand new. It comes with carbon. Um, Now the borrow rings I do throw in there since instead of tossing them, I use them. Now and the sponges, I use all of those. I even add some more sponges to the canister. So it turns
Hmm.
out to be a big sponge filter, basically.
Hmm.
That's high powered, you know.
Yep. Well, and I
And
think
you
at
can
some
hold a
point,
lot of filter media in those. That's a really
yeah.
good aspect of it. Is that, that much filter media is really good at removing all those particulates from the water,
Mhm.
and like you said, that polishing effect.
And the turnover, when you've got the big
Mhm.
tanks, you need that turnover, and that's one area where sure you can have multiple hang-on backs, but at some point it kind of becomes impractical if the tank is big enough, right? You could get
Right.
to a certain size where you're like, how many hang-on backs am I going to add? Two, it's like, all right, that makes sense. Are you going to add 3 or 4? Right at that point, you start to look at it and you say, like, we need to move down to something a little bit bigger, just to just
Right,
all
right.
of this, right? So I think that makes total sense for me. I've got smaller tanks, right? At 40 gallons are the biggest tanks I've got. Hang-on
Right.
backs handle that no problem.
Right.
Same here
Um.
for this one, anyways.
Hmm.
The
Now.
plan with the 150, however, um, that with that being a discus aquarium, I want to put 2 canisters on that one actually, as well as an HOB for additional polishing. Because I want to ensure that they have super, super duper clean water as much as possible. And I want to be able to minimize water changes. I don't want to have to do 4 or 5 water changes a week on a discus tank that's 150 gallons.
Hmm.
And it's going to be heavily planted as well. So I'm definitely going to be able to manage that a lot better with all that filtration. That bad boy is going to have 2 FX6s and if not 1, maybe 2 HOBs on it as well,
Nice.
which was originally the plan with this one as well, was to have probably a 407, a flue ball 407 on this, as well as the HOBs that I have on there now. But I don't think I need the canister for this tank. I think it just does perfectly fine with the 2 HOBs the way it is.
Nice, Paul. Yeah. Hey, I'm not saying that Eheim is bad or any other brand out there, but for me, I have not had luck with the other brands. So.
Mm.
We're also getting
And,
some good comments I don't want to ignore from Coro. I think talking a little bit about something having redundancy with your pre-filter. No matter how bad you clean your filter, as long as you alternate which media to clean, you're keeping your beneficial bacteria alive. And I think that's
Mhm.
right. I think Coro is also a fan of the undergravel filter. So, Vibe, maybe you can educate us about that.
yeah. Okay, y'all.
That's a little bit of an inside joke for our for our for our viewers, where we were talking throughout the week trying to figure out which filters we were going to talk about. And
Oh Lord.
at one point, I made a joke saying that Vibes was going to pick an undergravel filter. I just knew it. So that's not being true, but that was the thought that I had.
It was
if you don't
funny.
want, if you don't want to leave, go ahead, because it's going to get nasty now.
I also predicted that.
um,
I did.
I,
I did.
I'm
Very
not.
true. You really did.
I'm not. I'm not a fan of the underground filters. Just the looks of it. That's just me.
Oh
That's
man.
good. Yeah. Miss, welcome. Hey,
Hey,
for those that
Misa.
I missed, I'm sorry. I'm trying to stay up with everyone. How
Oh, we
would
got
you
Big
compare the
Shrimp in
FX
here.
series? Hey, Big Shrimp, and welcome. And Missy has a good question. Vibes, how would you compare the FX series with the '07? I still consider the FX series top of the line, better than '07 even. Uh,
I agree.
all canisters should be automatic prime and should
Mhm.
prime, what we call it, gas off every 24 hours or 12 hours automatically. We're living in 2023. If the FX series has done it, why can't anybody else do the same thing?
Mhm.
Let's make the playing field even for everyone. You know what I mean?
You know, the
Agreed.
only thing that I wish the FX series had the addition of was UV filter, UV sterilization, internal UV sterilization. That's the
Mm.
only thing
Yeah.
that I think they could do to kind of add to it, to upgrade it. If they were to be able to implement that within the FX6 or within the the X series, that would be phenomenal. Then they really
But
couldn't be beat.
but would the UVs would that even work even with that much flow that fast?
I'm pretty sure that Fluval could develop a way or develop the what's the phrase I'm looking? Oh, we have the technology.
Right. Yeah, we do, 100%.
We have the
Um,
technology. You know.
well, see, hey, it could be done. All you have to do is set it up that where the UV is, the water would go in, but the flow would not be as fast as the flow coming out of the canister.
Or they could even keep the same flow rate and figure out a way to increase the intensity of the UV, so that way it
Yeah.
penetrates all the way through.
See, I think
Or even
Mariah
have a
and
360, a 360-degree,
yeah,
basically touch point where it captures the entire flow instead of having only one point of access.
right. I think Mariah should make a canister where it sounds.
I should do what?
Make a canister filter with a UV built in. You would pass everyone up. It'd be the top of the line.
I got the ideas. I ain't got the engineering skills.
Oh,
Minor detail. Minor detail.
yeah,
I'm
just
real
minor.
good with duct tape and a screwdriver.
Okay. Well, that's part way there.
There you go. Perfect.
I can do some stuff with some silicone. I know that. And a tape measure. Yeah.
Okay, y'all. There's a good point in the chat. I've got an underground filter been running close to 20 years with zero issues.
Wow.
MNC, what I gotta tell you, if it works for you, don't change it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Keep at it.
There's a reason why back when we were kids, that was kind of the thing. It obviously worked and had some benefits. I think that, like
mean
most
like
things,
that?
I think things, right, exactly. I think things
Yep.
end up going out of popularity for different reasons. Some of it probably, hey, as the new shiny thing showed up and we moved on, but the old stuff still does work.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I had to choose one filtration for all my tanks,
Yep.
it'd be the sponge.
Okay.
Because the sponge does work. It does work.
Sure.
I know it's not. We got the display tank aquascape look. You want. I get that. But it does work though.
Yes, the tanks that I run sponge filters, I don't have issues. There's no, again, I don't know that it does as good a job of keeping the water looking clear and clean, right? I think there tends to be more particulate that I find in those tanks, but I don't have issues with the tanks where they're unable to keep a cycle. It does plenty for biological filtration for sure. So. No, I would agree. They definitely do work. I think the other thing that's good about them, as I'm here making your argument for you, right, is they're efficient to run for multiple tanks.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what? I'm gonna actually try to do that. I'm gonna try to figure out a way to do that.
Do what?
Yeah, you can do it.
I'm gonna
Do-
try to
do your own
design my
canister?
own canister filter out of a 5-gallon bucket.
Do
There
it.
you go.
Do it.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, and while you're doing it, film it and let us know all about it. That way I can copy you.
I'm gonna have to go to the patent office with that one.
There you go.
Yeah. That's not a bad idea.
There's a couple of good. Oh, go ahead.
Hey, Jesse, welcome.
Hey, Salient. Paul and M&C have
Hello.
some good comments here. So Paul mentioned that FX series are big, powerful filters with an equally large footprint and price tag that may not be suitable for all fish keepers. It's 100% correct, right? I think there's a use case
Yeah.
for everything that's out there, and in some cases it would be overkill. I think in the tanks that I keep, it would be total overkill. There would be no reason for me to have one, especially like an FX4 or an FX6. I just don't keep big fish, and I don't keep large quantities usually of fish, right? So I think that would be something that would be more than I need. And then M&C said something interesting. A box filter works better than a sponge filter. Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah,
It still is air driven, but it's got a
Right.
different design. All valid points.
Now, the smallest tank that I put an FX4 onto is a 40 breeder or 40 gallon.
Okay. Yeah. So that's the biggest tanks I have are the 40 breeders.
Yeah. So you could have FX4 on the tank. It'd be perfectly fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, if you had batters in there, I wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah, the flow would be a little bit
That would be way
aggressive
too
for
high.
their needs.
It'd be like, it's the ocean. I didn't grow up in oceans.
Right. Yeah.
Now, if you take a hang-on back or a canister and put a sponge on the intake, you got a double sponge filter basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think the pre-filters work great on the sponges. They work great on they work great on the hang-on backs. They work great on the canisters. Yeah, I think they both serve a very similar function there.
Right.
I think I would just say that, out of all the choices that we have discussed so far, whether it be sponges, canisters, hang on back, under gravel filter, I think there's one thing that we can all agree on. It's definitely that there's no such thing as too much filtration. You can't have too much filtration.
What
You
did I
can't.
have?
No, you cannot have too much filtration. You cannot.
Amen. I agree with you 100%.
Now let's be to be fair. I'm not. When I say that, I don't mean obviously putting an FX6 on a 20-gallon tank. You know what I mean?
You could do it
with guppies in it. You could, but you probably wouldn't have too many fish. Probably wouldn't have many fish that last very long. You know what I mean? But as far as just even implementing all of them together, like you said, you could have an HOB on a tank as well as a canister, and then also have a sponge filter over in the corner. You could also even have an under gravel filter on the other side of it. You could have all of them implemented at the same time if you wanted to, or only select a couple of them.
It'd be like a filter showroom.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
You could do just a tank that's just nothing but filters, just to show the different methods of filtration.
You could,
which would be really cool, and you could even display it to where you could flip them on individually, off and on, and you could see how the flow of the water moves. You could see how it directs the water and what it does. To be able to figure out what's best for you, your tank, your setup, the type of substrate you would have, the fish you would have, of course, and whether or not it's going to be a planted tank.
Right.
Yep.
And if you have a planted tank, especially if plants are floating, a canister filter will not work too good.
Even a hang-on back, I think, tends to disrupt them.
Yep. So in that scenario, you want a sponge, I guess.
Yeah, you're right.
Now, theoretically, if you had the longer inlet and outlet attachments for a canister, theoretically you could still get away with floating plants. If you had, like I said, if you have the long attachments to it. But with a hang-on back, it would definitely disturb the surface of the water too much, and it would kind of definitely move them around a lot more.
Right. Now, for the hang-on back, if you did a DIY setup and do it with a comes out and make it like a waterfall over rocks down back to the tank.
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely.
So that would diffuse the flow.
Yeah,
Hmm.
there are ways that you could do it. I think they also do. They make. I think you can buy on Etsy or something like that. There are people that make a little hang-on back diffuser. They kind of go on the end of the output, and they sort of divert the flow a little bit. So I think there are things that you could do to make it work. It just depends on how much customization you want to do and how important kind of floating plants are. I think the only tanks that I have floating plants in are ones where I use sponge filters. So I
Right.
haven't had to go down that rabbit hole too much, but I know there are people that have done quite a bit of customization.
Right. But I want to do a lot more of that customization for either a canister or even hang on back for a waterfall, like over rocks back into the tank. That way, it's a little more like not nature.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna take time, but I want to do it on this tank here with the
With the Frontosa,
yeah.
that would be a cool setup, man. That would be really,
Now,
really.
of course, with all my cichlid tanks, I did add at least one wave maker to the tank. At least one.
I've got
Okay.
2 in this one.
I don't have any wave makers.
Okay.
No, none whatsoever. I have
The
yeah.
first one up on the top, it's the higher flow one, and it's going across the entire surface. And the second one is a much lower flow. I can't remember exactly how many gallons per hour each of them are, but and this one's closer towards the bottom and pointed up towards the main filter intake, just slightly pointed up and towards the back. That way it keeps a circular motion going in the tank, and it kind of helps to keep pushing all that detritus up off of the substrate and help keep it from settling near the rocks and get pushed up towards the intake.
Good point, Co. You can have too much flow, but not too much filtration.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
I agree.
with that. Do we want to talk about internal canister filters?
Sure. Yeah, I think that's a very viable type of filtration. I don't know that I've ever used one, so I can't say that I'm a true expert in the topic. But yeah, absolutely. I think that they've certainly got a place for for aquariums and my understanding is it's kind of it's like putting almost a canister inside of your tank, right? So
Right.
it hangs usually on the glass somewhere,
Mm-hmm.
and it's powered, right? So it's power driven, and it's got media of some sort, sponges or whatever else inside of it. I think Siche makes one, right?
Yeah, I actually got one.
Do you?
Mm-hmm.
What do you
Hey,
think of
hold
it?
on. I'm gonna grab it. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Take it over, y'all.
I actually have a Siche. One of the wave makers I have is a Siche. It's called a Nano Voyager.
Uh-huh.
That's the smaller one that I have. And the other one, I believe, is Aqueon.
Mm-hmm.
I also have an Aqueon. That's one of the HOBs that I have is an Aqueon as well. I like their products. They've got some pretty decent filtration stuff.
Mm-hmm. Is the Siche the one that I know they've got some app enabled wave makers and different things like that?
So they do have them. This one is not one of those. This one's just a basic little, just manual one. Just plug it in and let it go.
Yep.
I didn't really feel too comfortable with the. I'm not really big on all the digital, automatic stuff.
Yep.
I don't know why I have so much anxiety surrounding it, but I don't know. I feel like something could go wrong so much easier as opposed to just plugging it in, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. If it does, it does.
Yeah, that's good. Again, I think that's what works for you.
Hmm.
What you got there, Vibes?
This is a Micron C-Shade internal filter. I haven't used it yet. It's given to me from a fellow club member.
Yep.
They didn't use it because they just went all to sponge filters. So I can't tell you any much about it, but I definitely want to give it a try. I know it's going to take more power than my sponge filters will.
Yes, sure.
Because it's a powered filter, but you put it in your tank and put plants around it. You wouldn't know it's there even.
Yep.
And if you're trying to avoid bubbles in your tank, voila.
Because everything's under the surface of the water, right?
Right.
Yep.
So you can put it in there, and you can filter a 5-gallon, 2-gallon tank. Be totally fine.
Yeah.
Slide the pot. You can use the little basket with it, beads or whatever it is. Or
is that what's inside of there?
Yeah, something. I'm not sure what they are even. Like little pellets, whatever. But you can also
blow yourself up, vibes.
Yeah, make
10,
yourself bigger.
9, 8, 7,
3, 2, 1.
Boom! That's knowing you.
Oh my god. He's trying hard, ain't he?
He is.
It's getting close.
I'm losing this battle.
Wizzle says he thinks it's carbon.
Okay. So in that case, I'm going to definitely be changing it out. I'm going to be cutting a sponge filter, a sponge that resembles the same layout, and slide it into the house. That way, it's basically a sponge filter. It's powered. That slides right.
Right in there.
For those that watch John and Lisa, the Cajun Tropicals, they definitely support these kind of filters. Let me see. Yeah, there you go. Voila. And it has suction cups on the back. You can stick it to your glass.
Yep.
Cool.
And if you stick it up high enough, you can pull the bottom off of it. Also, you could let it sideways at the bottom, or put it high enough that you do have a little waterfall coming off. You want a little bit of surface agitation.
The surface agitation, yeah, nice.
Which is great. Hey, in all your tanks, in my opinion, there should be some surface agitation. Now, I do have tanks that don't have it, but the tanks that I do have it, I want flow up there. I want filter agitation for gas exchange purposes.
Yeah. Especially any, I would say, especially like any tropical tanks you have or higher temperature tanks. If you don't have an air stone or some type of something oxygenating the water in there, you definitely need that surface agitation, because the higher the temperature in your tank, the lower the oxygen is. It's always going to be like that. Even if you got a pretty heavily planted tank, it's not going to be able to produce as much oxygen with that heat being as high as it is for a lot of tropical setups. I know that's part of the reason why I have so much agitation in the tank behind me, is because I keep it at pretty high temperatures. This tank is sitting right now at 80 degrees. But to be fair, I also keep it pretty cool in my home. So, but yeah, and they do perfectly well. They do amazing in this tank. and until they decide to get aggressive, but that's another story.
That's a different problem.
Yeah.
We've got looks like Adele and I think Tommy were talking about using spray bars on their internal filters.
Okay.
So that's an interesting modification or option that it sounds like some of them have. So again, makes it more canister-like.
Right. Which I got that on my I've got 6 back here behind me for the,
Mhm.
for the distance tank. The spray bar.
Yeah.
Now, are we gonna, since we're talking about filtration, are we going to get into the sub world, or is that totally out of our league?
Sumps.
Ooh,
Yeah.
Ha ha ha.
Okay. TJ is taking it over.
I know. I think Mariah prepared for this one, so I'll let her run with this.
Go ahead, Mariah. You got it.
okay. So, I have never personally used a sump. Let me just start by saying that. However, I have had quite a good deal of experience working with a couple of different sump systems, namely Marineland. Okay. Now these have all been in retail settings. Let me make that clear. This is never have these been any personal run systems. But I really, really love some systems because of the capacity. I mean, we had almost 1,000 gallons of tanks. This, you guys know what fish stores look like, or a pet store with their fish tanks. Almost 1,000 gallons of water. All these different types of fish from all these different places. It's supposed to be different water parameters and have different levels and all these different things, but they're able to cohabitate and coexist in the same system because of the sump. They are freaking amazing. Water changes are super easy and simple, except for the fact of having to refill a lot of water. That's the only downfall. Um, and I mean, cleaning is extremely simple because it's you rarely ever have to clean it. You pretty much are just like we were talking about earlier with the pre-filters. You're cleaning the pre-filters and your foam pads. That's about it. That's as much as you're cleaning, and that's on like a daily basis with the foam pads, depending on the capacity of the bio load that you're running on that sump. And then on a monthly basis, if even if that, again, depending on the capacity that you're running with the bio load, for your carbon filters and your chemical filtration and what have you. And there are also a lot of different sump systems where you can have the implementation of sand filters, sand bubbler filters, which I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but it's essentially a large column, a large tube, cylindrical tube that it's full of sand. It's just full of sand, and the water pumps up through the bottom, goes to the top. It filters through the sand to help remove additional particulates and waste matter from that water in a more natural way. And then it runs back through the system of through the rest of the filtration. And not only is it also, it's extremely easy to treat a lot of common illnesses. For instance, it was very easy to quarantine new fish with certain systems. There are some sump systems where, depending on how the pipes are plumbed, which, sorry, this brings me into another segue of it. Sumps have the ability to be plumbed in many different ways. You can customize your pipes so many different ways. You can have so many different fittings and gears and things that can help you manage your system in the way that you need. With that being said, there are some that you can turn off flow, or you can change the flow to only specific tanks or specific areas of that system if need be. So let's say you've got 30 tanks on one wall and you have 3 tanks on the bottom row that have ick outbreak, but everybody else is fine. You need to make sure that you're treating only those tanks, because in certain situations, not specifically just for ick, but in certain situations, if you treat a fish that's not sick, there are some medications that can actually kill them or shock them, and it turns out into a very negative situation.
Right.
Um, so for me personally, I think if it's feasible for your tank setup and if you can afford it, I think everybody should at least experience a sump at least one time. There are many options for home sump setups that are very, very small, downscaled, and fairly reasonably priced, depending on the merchandiser you're looking at. But definitely worth it if you can afford it, and if it's feasible for your home.
Yeah, so that's really
Hey,
interesting.
Stephen P.
There's one YouTuber that it has a fish channel from Australia, Jason Cichlids, and he
Mm.
specializes in mostly Tanganyikan cichlids,
Mhm.
and he runs a good portion of his fish room on a sump. So what you're talking about, right, Mariah, around being able to sort of quarantine a certain tank, shut it off from the rest of the system. He's
Mhm.
gone through and he's done videos on how he set it up to make sure that he had that ability to sort of segregate certain tanks as needed. So pretty
Mhm.
interesting to be able to do that, and a relatively efficient way to filter a large number of tanks that he's got in one room. So I can
Right.
definitely see the potential for appeal there.
I think also something
Hey,
I forgot to
Dee.
mention as well is
Welcome.
like the fact that you can do much larger water changes if needed to on certain tanks. Because I know that there may be sometimes where certain tanks get fed different diets, of course, or a higher diet, more food at more frequent times. So of course they get much dirtier, a lot faster. Um, in which case you don't want to be doing 70 and 80% water changes all the time for something like a canister or an HOV or some of the other filtration options we spoke about. But something like a sump, you can do much larger water changes if you need to and remove a lot larger volume from the aquarium at one time. And you'll still be backed up on the other side with the sump because it contains such a much larger volume of water than the tank does.
Yeah, I think that's
Hey,
an interesting
Griffin.
point, right? Is the idea of how it adds to your water volume in a
Mhm.
potentially a very meaningful way.
Right. And of course,
Something
the fact
also.
that the sump is a lot larger in most cases than any of the other filtration options we've spoken about so far. Of course, that's always a positive in the fact that you'll have much more surface area for that beneficial bacteria to grow, and much more area and room for you to customize your own filtration media and have even more ways for you to kind of figure out what's right for you and your tank.
Hmm.
So, has any of us gone with DIY um, bog filters for our
No,
tanks?
Mm-mm.
No,
I've never done a DIY filter. I don't believe of any kind. How about you, Vibes?
No, I mean,
other than
I,
plants, no.
I did a DIY aquaponic system on one of my tanks for that was last year. It worked
Nice.
perfectly. The only problem I was dealing with algae in the grow bed because of my light was too much, I guess, for the system. But it did work. My water was very pristine, more than any of my other tanks ever been.
Mm.
So it does work.
Hmm.
Um, which that might be what I might be going into when I do a DIY waterfall system on my tanks. Do a tank bog filter per
Hmm.
se. We kind of like a sub kind of where you have your water flowing through media through grow beds with the grow beds, you have plants in there, flowers, you name it.
So when we say
Vegetables.
bog filter, that's what we're talking about, Vibes?
A bog filter for ponds is the same idea. It's basically almost like a sub, where you have a big layer of gravel or whatever the water has to go through.
Okay. And typically plants, or no?
Yeah. Typically, there's plants in the bog.
Got it. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Which is, which I got two of my buddies here local that has done it successfully. They used flower pots, not flower pots. Yeah, those rectangle flower pots.
Oh, like a flower box. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There you go. I know it. They did that. They drilled a hole in the side and put basically a bulkhead.
Mm-hmm.
Pumped it up with a small pump up to the grow bed. Let the water run through, and spit back into the tank again.
Did you see the filter that Chattanooga Ed, is making? He started working on it last week on his live stream after us, which he's not going tonight. But he started making. He used a planter box, and he built an insert out of egg crate and polycarbonate, with the idea that he was going to grow moss on it and then create like his own spray bar to spray water over the moss and use that to try and suck out a bunch of nutrients out of the water. It was really interesting. I hopped up with him and Skipper after we finished up and just watched him make it and ask him questions. It was really interesting. So I think that's quite the concept.
Go ahead. A question. How would you define grow bed compared to a bog filter? Maybe I'm not very right. I don't know, but I would say it's basically the same thing. It's very similar. It's the same thing. Now the grow bed is where you normally put plants in. A lot more plants. Like vegetables, for instance. Now in your bog filter, people like putting water plants that can thrive immersed.
Oh, okay. I wasn't, to be honest, until we had this conversation, I wasn't familiar with either topic. So I've learned something tonight. So that's a good thing.
Yeah.
And I do have to acknowledge that I did see Coro's comment earlier that apparently I've been saying his name incorrectly. So I need to work on that. So I acknowledge that and I'll fix it.
How do you say it right properly?
I have to go back and read the comment because he did it phonetically for me to be able to figure it out.
Okay.
It was quite a while ago. I just wanted to acknowledge it.
Mm-hmm. Now, of course, that's interesting. I mean, look into that. Would a DIY grow bed or a bog filter be cheaper than a sub? I mean, it's basically almost the same thing almost. It's very kind of the same category.
Yeah, I suppose it depends on the materials you need to build it, right? If you could use cheaper overall costing materials to build one or the other, I think that is I think that would be the deciding factor on cheaper. Now, how to decide which one fits your application better, that's individual choice, right?
Right. And with a flower box method, you can fill that up with gravel.
Mm-hmm.
You get from the rock place or from your driveway, whatever, and put plants in there. Plants that don't like to be chewed on or like to be totally fully submerged, but they want their feet wet. Put them in there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you just added more filtration to your tank. Like, for instance, when your cichlid tanks, that cichlids love plants, do that, you still have plants in your system.
Yeah, that's what, or the idea of pothos. If you could do that and you stick the roots in, they won't maybe bother it as much as if you have plants like planted in the tank and then they're ripping them out of the sand or the gravel or whatever. So yeah, there's definitely ways, I think, in order to incorporate plants into your setups and be able to do it in a way that fish that tend to either like to rip up or like to eat plants that you can kind of get away with it. So yeah, those are great suggestions.
So, are plants a good source of filtration?
I would say yes, kind of. I don't think they do anything necessarily for removing particulates from your water,
Mm,
but I think
Right.
they can remove, like we talked last week when we talked about tank crashes, right? One of the things in some of the research that I was doing, it recommended adding to your plant load or adding a plant load at all can help
mm,
with sometimes sucking up things like ammonia, certainly nitrates, right? We know that
mm,
they'll do. So I feel like that is a form of filtration. I think the other thing that they do is they do tend to bring bacteria in with them. So if you add
Mhm.
them new to a tank, it is additional ways to bring that biological piece into your aquarium. So I think when it comes to those types of things, absolutely, I would consider it part of
Yeah.
the filtration of the aquariums, right? I think
Right.
you just have
Right.
to be realistic on what it'll do for you.
Right. Hey, DJ, welcome. Paul McCarthy, welcome.
Did you just say
But
Paul McCartney?
McCarthy.
Oh, okay.
Mm.
Yeah.
Steven's
Um.
got a good comment about that. He says he has some filthy ass moss full of particulates, though. Right. So
Mm.
in that case, moss I feel like picks up everything. I had
Moss
some
is
moss.
essentially a biological sponge filter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it just it like hair algae. You want hair algae in your tank. If you've got the conditions right, it seems like it's going to go straight for that moss.
Hmm.
Yeah, he's absolutely right. I think it's a magnet for kind of stuff, right? So
Hmm.
it's not necessarily removing it, but it definitely attracts it, right? So you can
Right.
collect a lot of stuff in one particular area.
Moss is
So
basically like the welcome mat at your front door. You know, it looks
right.
good, but it serves a purpose. And but in serving that purpose, it stops looking good over time.
I think it takes a lot of maintenance, right, to make it.
Hmm.
Can you use hair algae as filter floss?
Ew,
I'm
I
pretty
wouldn't.
sh- I'm pretty sure that I had hair algae for a while in my community tank that was certainly thick enough that it probably could be used similarly. I don't know that it would have done a great job, but it would have filled the. You would have looked at it and thought it was filthy.
It would definitely clog up the filter and would not allow you to have it flow. So no.
No,
Right. Right.
I had such a hair algae problem. It was not good.
A good way to combat that is a peroxide dip.
Yeah.
Mm. The problem is I couldn't stop it from growing back.
Mm,
And it was ridiculous, Mariah. Like it was kind of stupid. I
yeah.
finally I had to change my approach with fertilizing, and it's made it go away, and it's gone, and I don't have a speck of it left. But it took
Right.
me literally, and I'm a little ashamed to admit this, it took me 3 years about of that
Wow.
tank existing to figure it out.
Mm.
It was the
Did
craziest
you
thing
ever
ever.
use salt in the process at all or anything like that?
No, no. What I did is I
Mm.
changed the fertilizer that I was using, and now I use one that doesn't have any added nitrates and it doesn't have any added phosphates.
Right.
What do you
And
use
it,
if you don't mind me asking?
yeah, so I use the Tropica, the premium nutrition. So they sell two
Okay.
varieties. It's the brown liquid, and it's been working good. I know there's other companies that make similar ones, 2 Hour Aquarist and probably even Nylock G and some others. But this one I started using based on a recommendation of my local fish store, and it's been working great. So I just stick with it at this point.
Nice. I know The only one that I'm familiar with using myself has been a Leaf Zone through a API.
Mm-hmm.
That worked. It worked pretty well for me in a couple of other tanks that I had before that were planted. Never had any issues with that algae as well. So
Yeah, I think there's lots of interesting choices. It was a matter of trying to figure out what was the real cause, right? So testing all
mhm.
kinds of different things and trying different things, and finally it seems to have worked. But it was quite the journey.
Man, I tell you what, that is the scary part of this hobby is the trial and error part.
Right.
Is when something does go wrong, it's not just about fixing it, it's about finding out what caused it so you can prevent it from happening again.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of fun, but it's also a little bit frustrating at the same time because you just
Mhm.
want everything to look really nice, and like
Yep.
it was ridiculous. It was a lot of hair algae. And Steven, who is a resident plant guy here, knows a lot about a lot when it comes to plants.
Yeah.
He says
Mm.
Tropica, Low Tech Nylac G, Brightwell, and others are all good. So that's been my
Nice.
experience. And we've picked up some new folks. We got Whip. We
Yeah.
got
With
Zen's jumped in here. We got
Trash
Jorge
Cat.
Mexicali. Trash Cat. Hi, Trash Cat.
Outside Aquatics.
Hey, outside.
Hey
Yeah,
y'all.
George. Someday we need George up here.
Hey.
So, are we going to get to the topic of no filters,
Ooh.
or should
Absolutely
we just
not.
leave now?
No, I mean,
No
I think
filters.
there's, yeah, a no filter aquarium. Yeah.
What are we, nature? We're not nature. Come on, guys. We're not.
Well,
We're not the earth. We're not the ocean and rivers and lakes. Come on now.
I mean, I agree with that. I certainly don't think that I am nature or as good as nature, but I think there are lots of people that have had some success with that. We've got our very own
Yeah.
Tommy has maybe a couple of tanks that I think are like that, and he has had some success.
Now,
So,
are we talking just no filtration or no water changes?
oh well, I think all the vibe said was no filter, and
Okay.
I don't know what Tommy does as far as water changes on those tanks or not, but you're right. I think those are two distinctions, and there are some
Mm,
people that are able to do both.
I agree.
Is there such thing as no filter? Really? Is there?
Hmm. Well, I
In
think if we're
practice,
technical about it,
yes.
yep.
In theory, no, because even if you've got something like a beta in a bowl, eventually you're still going to have to change out that water and put in new water. While it might not be a filtration aspect, you're still taking out the old and putting in the new. So technically, you're filtering it out, but
I think there's
technically, no.
also Yeah, and I think there's also the element too, Mariah, of um, the fact that there will be bacteria that'll build up. They'll be on the
Mm-hmm.
surfaces, they'll be in the plants, right? All of those kinds of things. So you are, yeah, Stephen came back here with another comment. Something is doing biological work. Yes, he's absolutely right.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't have a physical filter as a piece of equipment.
Right.
Right.
We certainly aren't doing anything to enhance sort of the turnover of water or those kinds of things in
Right.
most of those cases. But he's right. The fact that there is an ecosystem that has been
Right.
right developed.
hmm
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Adam. Welcome.
And Jorge's right. And Tommy says he agrees with that as well. There's no filters are good, but not for all aquariums. I'll extend that to say they're also not good for all fish keepers.
Right.
I
Right.
agree, definitely.
Right? I feel like there's an element of it you have to set it up in a way where you are able to do the things necessary to make it work in your system. Whether it's you have to make sure that you've got the right plant load, or you've got to make sure that it's stocked in a way where it's not overloading what the system can do. I think there are parameters that have to be figured out to make that successful, but there are lots of people that I think have been able to make it successful.
And even the fish themselves will move the water across the bacteria. So,
Sure.
yeah, that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think it also has a lot to do with the bio load that you have in the tank as well. If your bio load doesn't exceed the capacity that the bacteria is able to basically to consume the amount of waste, then I think you'll be fine in that aspect. Of course, I mean, of course, you still will need to do regular maintenance and water changes as normal, but that's a given in any situation, whether you have filtration or not. And it really just depends on the schedule of maintenance that works for you and the type of maintenance that you decide to do.
And I think it's the aspect of fish keeping that you enjoy. If you're someone who wants to focus on sort of that natural environment and trying to
Right.
do it in a way where you set up that ecosystem,
Mhm.
then that's where you're going to spend some energy and some time in figuring out what works and how do you keep the fish happy and healthy. And
Right.
if that's not your deal, then that's why we have these pieces of equipment that can kind of take that piece of the process out for us. Again,
Mm.
I think it's it's really up to sort of what kind of works for us. Even Paul Sotero said he's got. I'm scrolling up here real quick, but he had a comment here about he's got a 4-ish gallon bowl with endler, shrimp, and a couple of nearite snails. The filtration is the plants, and you can only get away with that with a low bio load, right? So he's got small
Right.
fish in it, right? And Paul, I'll brag on him a little bit that I think he's got some of the most beautiful tanks. I love when I see a new video from him. He's got that beautiful discus angelfish tank with I think the
Oh
pencil fish
yeah.
in there, right? And so he is able to make it work, and the tanks and bowl and things are beautiful, right? I mean, I'm sure
Right.
they have their
Mhm.
issues, and that's probably what he's saying to himself right now, but in general, it's really great looking stuff. And so I think it is testament to the fact that you can make something like that work if you set it up that way.
Hey, Pink Rose, welcome. Yeah, I got like one, two, I got four, I got 6 ponds outside directly, tubs that have no filters, no power to it at all. It all depends on the weather, and what's in the tubs to do its own filtration. And most of those tubs just have Gabusia and one I guess has cichlids in it, I guess, one tub. Most of them are just Gabusia and plants. So
Which are mosquito fish, yeah?
yeah.
Yeah. Are they native to your area? I know Steven, his comment here, the Gambusia, I think they're the ones that he found in like his drainage ditch outside of his house or
Yeah.
like in his neighborhood.
Most of mine come from a local lake source.
They do. Okay.
Yeah. And those things are worse than rabbits. And worse than guppies. I mean, you put one in
Reproducing?
there, and
Yep.
there's like thousands of them.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, and which is kind of cool because if I want to start another tub tomorrow, I could grab a handful, put it in there, and within a week it'll be back to it'll be like what?
Yeah.
Which is
So,
it's a great food source for other fish in the pond.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, I finally realized I can't put a pond or a tub or anything in my backyard with standing water in it, with fish in it.
Why?
Not only because number one, this is Georgia, we got mosquitoes and they are absolutely relentless.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, we got stray cats in my neighborhood.
Oh, yeah.
Mm. Hmm. And also, again, this is Georgia. Not only do we have stray cats, but we got possums and coyotes and all kind of crazy birds.
Yep.
And yeah,
I
I ain't
actually
got time.
made a top for my tub. because I wanted to make sure none of because we're in a residential area, but the animals around here, because there's woods and things not that far away, have gotten kind of used to being in the neighborhood. So we see foxes, we see, possums, raccoons, deer, all sorts of stuff. So I made a top for the tub out of the kind of like fence material that you would put around like a small sapling to try and keep like things like deer away from eating them. It's
Mhm.
like a almost like a wire mesh, comes in a roll,
Mhm.
and I cut 2x2. Yeah, like 2x2, like
Yeah.
posts like you would use on like a banister or something like that for
Right.
like a deck, and I cut that as like the frame, and
You know what? That sounds like a good idea.
it works quite well, and it's not the most beautiful thing in the world. I just cut the 2x2 up, and I zip tied it to the wire mesh, and it just sits flush right on top of the tub. And it's heavy enough where things aren't probably likely to get it off. Like a cat could jump on it and it's not going to fall in. It's
Right.
worked so far okay. So that is a
Hey, you
way.
know what? I might actually need to put something out there to try to attract some deer.
Oh dear.
Sit out there with my
Oh
bow.
gosh.
Get
Oh
Dinner
man.
time.
some fresh burgers, some
Your
fresh deer
neighbors
meat.
would be happy with that situation.
Oh no, they'd come and they would join the cookout. They would
Ah,
definitely come. Yeah, they'd come chill next to the fire and sit next to the grill while I grill up them deer burgers.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
There you go. Now we're talking.
What?
So have we talked about all the different filters that we could use for our aquariums?
No, not even close. I've been watching in here. I don't know if you've seen some of the comments that M&C has left, but talking about things like diatomaceous earth filters,
Yeah.
Mm,
box filters, I think was brought up. There are so many different choices
mhm.
that are out there that are possible. I think this is a topic we could do as a oh, we lost her. But this is a
Yeah.
topic I think we could do as a part two,
Yeah.
probably
Let's do
down
it.
the
Yeah.
road, right? Down the road as we learn a little bit more. We could even bring someone like an MNC up. Maybe we could convince
Yes.
to join us and talk about some of these things that I'll be perfectly honest. I don't know much about, right? So I'd be
Right.
willing to certainly learn and have some discussion and see what it's about.
I'm doing wrong. Good dog. Good dog. So, I think it's time for us to wrap it up.
Okay.
But before we head out, uh, how how do you want to let off with everyone, TJ?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think that was really excited to have everybody so engaged. I think there was a lot of great ideas that were thrown around here. I think we've
Mhm.
started Mariah thinking about how she's going to make her own canister filter. I think if you go back and you look, Coro was in there giving you some ideas that I
Mm-hmm.
think he's
Yeah.
got on how you might make that work, so that you use those things if they make sense to you. But yeah, thanks everybody for taking the time. We've got 23 people in here right now. I know it's been an hour and a half, so I just appreciate everybody coming in here, supporting the channel vibes for you, and thanks for allowing me to jump up here and be part of the conversation. It's been great.
Thank you. How about you, Smokey?
You already know what I gotta say. Everybody, thank you so much. Of course. Um, Jesus King. Sorry. Um, treat people how you want to be treated. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And may the Lord treat you how you treat animals and elders.
Nice, nice. Yeah, thanks everyone for being here. If I didn't say it, it's all stream. I'm sorry, but I appreciate all those watching the replay. You guys rock. Keep it up. Um, We do want to have guests up on a regular basis. I mean, we're not every week. Maybe every other week. I don't know. We'll talk about it. But we do have a guest coming up next Thursday, so stay tuned for that.
It's gonna be a good one.
Yeah,
Indeed.
I'm excited. The guest is also excited to come up, so stay tuned for that. And hey, live stream Saturday night coming up. I don't have a guest yet, so if you want to be a guest, it's coming Saturday. Let me know. Hit me up. We can talk about it. Bring you up as a guest, or if you know someone that you want to see up here as a guest on the vibe check, then let me know. You can message me, email me, Instagram. And thanks, Mariah and Todd, for being up here. You guys rock. Best co-host this side and the Mississippi.
Whoa.
It should be your side.
Wait, we on opposite sides of the Mississippi.
I know. I said this side, your side.
Huh. I'm not sure how to take that, but I'm just gonna go with that and say that was a compliment. We'll just go with that one. We could
The
settle
best
this after the
idea.
stream.
You know what? I got one for you. How about this? This is the best team of hosts this side of the Mason-Dixon line.
Oh.
Ooh.
All right. There you
Uh-huh.
go. There you go.
The best idea since sliced bread. Anyways, thanks everyone for being here.
Yep.
Keep
and
your
we'll see y'all
fans
next week.
watching. Even if you have just one fan, it's worth it. Until then, love your family. Be watching. Bye.